Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Mike Elko, Texas A&M, wrapping up fall camp, and we have a laundry list of conversations that I want to get into over the next 10 to 15 minutes. I want to talk about number one. There is a freshman who I was skeptical in terms of how much he was going to play for Texas A&M in 2025. Look, the buzz is too loud to be ignored for running back Jamarion Morrow. Every time you sit down and read some fall camp intel, this kid's making plays to the point where it's like, hey, we got to talk about his role in this Texas A&M offense going into 2025. And what's so fascinating about this kid is it kind of flew under the radar when he flipped his commitment to Texas A&M. I believe it was on National Signing Day. So you had a lot of other big storylines around the sport. The transfer portal was also in full swing. I don't even think that we broke down his commitment. Go back and watch his senior year stuff from high school. I don't want to necessarily say it reminds you of like a Tavon Austin. That is the kind of vibes that you get from this kid. He is an electric factory with the football in space. And I think what fires me up the most about Jamarion Morrow is that he's perfect for the Coach Colin Klein offense. And we've talked about this a lot over the last offseason is this Texas A&M roster on the offensive side of the football is a way better fit for what Coach Colin Klein wants to do than what we had 12 months ago. I mean, what's Coach Colin Klein's MO? Hey, football to our playmakers in space, let them go make plays. And go back to last year, there were not very many football players that were scaring you with the ball in space. Now you're looking at this 2025 roster and say, Casey Concepcion, one of the best in the game. I mean, Ashton Bethel, Roman, Terry Bussey, they're generating a ton of buzz going into year two. You had a guy like Mario Craver. Ruben Owens is coming back from injury. Now a kid like Jamarion Morrow, who why I was skeptical is when he came out of high school, he was a buck 80. Buck 80 probably soaking wet. He's up to around 210 pounds, consistently making plays in fall camp. We know one thing about Coach Colin Klein. If you show that you can be a difference maker, we will get creative and find ways to get you the football in space. And it sounds like that's the role that Jamarion Morrow might play for Texas A&M. Look, is he going to be on the field for 40 snaps a game? No, probably not. When you have running backs like Le'Veon Moss, like Ruben Owens, can we find 10 really, really good opportunities? Now, it might not be 10. Can we find 5? Can we find 5 really unique, good opportunities for this kid to get the football in space? Texas A&M struggled immensely in creating explosive plays last year. They got the guys to go out and do it in 2025. And you don't have to be that fancy about it. Just get them the ball in space. Let them do the rest. Jamarion Morrow really kind of piquing my interest heading into the 2025 year. Now, I want to get into a couple of other storylines, including some sneaky keys to the season for Texas A&M. I do want to address some of the bigger questions that we have about this football team post-fall camp as well. Laundry list of topics before we get into it, as always. Just want to say thank you to you guys and to the Texas A&M fans. It's been really fun talking this football team, and the amount of support y'all have shown the boys has been amazing. I can't thank you guys enough. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into it. Now, broad observation right quick before we get a little bit more into the details. Depth of this football team seems to be in a really good spot. I mean, you have a few question marks, I think, at offensive tackle with Ruben Fothery nursing an injury. Maybe you're a little concerned about the tackle depth. Everywhere else, like, I'm leaving fall camp much more confident in the depth of this football team. Why is that so important? That's what really plagued Texas A&M down the stretch when they started dealing with some injuries, and when you started getting into the meat grinder of the SEC schedule. That's when teams separate. In terms of the teams that have good depth, they continue to win, and the teams that don't, they start taking losses. That's what you saw from Texas A&M in 2024. This was a football team that was 7-1 and finished the season 1-4. I think a large part of that was when the injuries and when guys started getting banged up, and we had to start relying on the guys in the 2 and 3 deep a little bit more. There was a significant drop off. I mean, I think the best example is at the running back position. Le'Veon Moss goes down. You could tell there was a significant drop off from Le'Veon Moss to a guy like Amari Daniels to a guy like EJ Smith. I don't see that kind of drop off taking place for Texas A&M as much in 2025. Now, I think the depth of this roster is going to continue to get better as Mike Elko continues to build this roster the right way. It's a deeper football team than last year. I think that going to matter for Texas A&M. When you have college football playoff aspirations, which you make no mistake about it, that is the aspirations for this football team, got to be deep. I think Texas A&M is deeper in 2025. How about this? And Coach Colin Klein talked about it. The conversation around Marcel Reed fascinates me. There's believers and there's non-believers, and there's not a ton of people in between, right? I look at Marcel Reed and say that the number one thing that frustrates me about the Marcel Reed rhetoric is we don't recognize this kid was a redshirt freshman last year that was running with the twos all of spring practice and all of fall camp. He was a young kid. He wasn't a fourth-year quarterback. This was a kid that was a redshirt freshman that was thrusted into duty, and I thought played better than I think a lot of Texas A&M fans expected during the 2024 year in an offense that wasn't totally designed to maximize what Marcel Reed can do. This is what I love most about Coach Colin Klein. And this is the biggest difference, quite frankly, from this Texas A&M staff to what we saw with Jimbo Fisher. Jimbo Fisher, talk about the worst example of a coach when it's like, hey, I had something that worked for me at Florida State with Jameis Winston, and I'm going to use that the rest of my career. It's kind of what Jimbo Fisher did. I mean, like, tried to fit so many different quarterbacks into his offense and not really utilizing what they did best. I think the best example is Haynes King. Like, trying to use Haynes King the way Jimbo Fisher did. Haynes King goes to Georgia Tech. All of a sudden, Haynes King, pretty damn good quarterback. Coach Colin Klein is going to build this thing around Marcel Reed. Hey, what does Marcel Reed do the best? And how can we consistently put him in those positions? He's a really twitchy, quick release passer that excels inside of 10 yards. We're going to continue to dial up those kind of throws for Marcel Reed. He can throw off platform. So we're going to move the pocket with Marcel Reed. You know, some of the things that you wouldn't really want to ask Connor Wigman to do, Marcel Reed can. And that was part of the struggle with what we saw in 2024 was they built this offseason I should say this. They built that offense all offseason focusing on Connor Wigman. How can we build this offense and install this offense around Connor Wigman's skill set, and then snap your fingers, Marcel Reed takes over the offense, and we don't really have an offense that's designed to maximize Marcel Reed. What Colin Klein can do building this thing around Marcel Reed and learning about what he does well and what he doesn't do well, to me, that's why Texas A&M did not go to the transfer portal and grab a quarterback. I think they felt like, hey, if we build this offense around Marcel Reed, we're going to make it work. We'll see if it does. And I think people probably sleeping on what Marcel Reed can be going into 2025. But the key is recognizing Marcel Reed's a unique quarterback. Make sure you're building the offense around what he does best. Here's another storyline that I think should fire up a lot of Texas A&M fans is the Deion Hayes storyline here. Why is Deion Hayes so important? And I think we can probably officially do this at this point. I think Deion Hayes is going to start opposite of Cassius Howell. So we'll make the official change. Deion Hayes is going to start. We'll move TJ Searcy back into the 2 deep. Why is this so important? Cassius Howell, in my opinion, is going to get the superstar treatment. That's how good of a football player I think Cassius Howell is. I think Texas A&M fans know. I don't think the national media is quite there yet. Cassius Howell is going to be a top 50 NFL draft pick, at least in my opinion. He's going to get some doubles. He's going to get tight ends chipping him. Running backs are going to be helping in the backfield. Who is opposite Cassius Howell and who can take advantage of those ideal matchups? It sounds like it's going to be Deion Hayes, who I think is criminally slept on. Go back to this kid at Pitt in 2023. He was awesome. And quite frankly, he was really good for the first 4 games at Colorado before the season-ending injury. It sounds like that's exactly the version of Deion Hayes that we're going to get coming back from the injury. That's huge because we know that he's going to have some ideal matchups, but we needed somebody to step up opposite Cassius Howell. I look at the 2 biggest goals, really the 1 biggest goal for Texas A&M. Can we translate all the disruption we had last year to real production. I mean, Texas A&M, the amount of negative plays they missed out on, the amount of dominance they had on the defensive line, they had 3 guys in the top 75 NFL draft picks, but didn't really translate to the production we were looking for. Can we translate this year? Dan Hay is going to play a massive part of it. Probably throw in Marco Jones too. I look at Rylan Kennedy, certainly in that conversation, TJ Searcy as well. I look at the offensive line play in the SEC this year. There's legitimate questions for a lot of these football teams. Can Texas A&M capitalize? Can they have that elite caliber pass rush that we thought they were going to have last year but didn't? Can we have that happen in 2025? That's how Texas A&M takes a step. A lot of teams that have question marks on the offensive line, Texas A&M take advantage of that. Last year, I mean, Mike Elko, hands-on defense. This is a storyline that not enough people are talking about. This defense underperformed the talent that they had. Now going into 2025, it sounds like Mike Elko not only going to be hands-on with the defense, sounds like he's going to call the defense. I'm a fan of that. I mean, there are some coaches that I'm not a fan of it. You know, Billy Napier at Florida, I don't think he should be calling the offense because I don't think Billy Napier is a special offensive mind. Might be a really good head coach. I actually think he's probably a pretty good head coach. In terms of like an offensive play call, I don't think he's special. If you have a special trait, go out and use it even if you're the head coach. Mike Elko is special designing and calling a defense. I'm a fan. That's for the same exact reasons I'm a fan of Brent Venables calling Oklahoma's defense this year. If you are elite at what you do, just because you're the head coach, don't stop doing the things that you are elite at. Can Mike Elko, hands-on calling this defense, really elevate this unit in 2020? I think this is when I look at this Texas A&M defense, I see NFL talent at all 3 levels. Can we play like that in 2025? Biggest question marks, I think your depth at tackle is certainly a question mark. Here's the biggest one that I'll go to. Marcel Reed throwing the deep ball. And we talked about Marcel Reed, hey, consistently putting Marcel Reed in spots for him to be successful. That's important. But at the same time, if you want to go out and win 10 football games, that deeper third passing attack needs to be better than what it was last year for Marcel Reed. I mean, a 27% completion percentage, 20-plus yards down the field, that was one of the lowest in college football. Can we take that step? Because how good this Texas A&M team should be running the football, teams are going to be loading the box. Like you're going to see a lot of safeties walking in to try to stop that run game. The vertical passing attack will be there because of the run game, because of the wide receivers you have legitimate burners on the outside. Can Marcel Reed take advantage when he has the opportunity to make those throws? Can he go out and make them? That doesn't mean you're asking Marcel Reed to consistently push the ball down the field, but when the opportunity presents itself, he has got to be a little bit more consistent pushing that sucker down the field. Can he do that? And then lastly, depth on the defensive line, which I'm feeling better about. You know, what I'm hearing from DJ Sanders, what I'm hearing from Chase Sims, like being guys that we think can play as freshmen, you feel better about the depth of the defensive line than we thought it was probably in the spring, which is it's still a question mark. You know, I can hear all I want to hear about the freshmen. I got to go see him do it. We're hearing the right things. We'll pause it there. Oh, so many fun storylines for this football team. Going to be really fun talking this team as we kick off. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.